Life can feel overwhelmingly busy, and many of us are trying to juggle family, work, faith, and everything in between. How can we find balance and make time for the things that really matter?
We will discuss this and more today on Real Family Talk.
Welcome to Real Family Talk. In today's episode, we're talking about balancing life in a busy world.
Joining us today is Pastor Christian Martin and his wife, Heidi Martin, a social worker. They're co-hosts of Wake Up with Hope. Heidi and Christian, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for welcoming us. We are very happy to be here.
It's so good to be here.
Glad we finally got you.
Yeah.
So, we're living in a very busy world these days. And you guys have been in ministry together almost from you got married.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what was that like? And I'm talking about your expectations and the reality when that got started.
Oh, sure. Well, I was born in a pastor's home, so I'm a PK. and little did I realize that I would fall in love with a PK.
Wow.
And Heidi's a pastor's kid as well. And so you can only imagine that made it a very, very unique way to actually relate to one another because I was, myself going into ministry. My wife is now, my spouse going into ministry as well. And with that PK background, it made it feel familiar. It was not like a change that we would have to now launch into the unknown.
Right.
And that made it easier, I would say. And discovering the joys of ministry also made it interesting because, we always dreamed about the joy of ministry. And one of the things we quickly realized is that there's joys and there's also
Not
very
joys.
difficult situations.
Indeed.
Yeah, what about you, Heidi? How was it for you?
Well, I will say that I love ministry so much, and I was always involved in ministry. So my parents brought me into their ministry, and I loved being part of God's work.
That's
so
amazing.
my dream growing up was to continue that and to continue being part of God's work. And so I initially thought, well, maybe I'll, study theology
yeah.
or something like that. But then I was like, but I don't think I could see myself as a pastor or a teacher. So I ended up going into social work, which was a really perfect complement for ministry. And then when God brought Christian into my life, I was so excited because we could join forces together and really, by God's grace, make a solid team for the kingdom.
Yeah, I think that is just so unique that your parents modeled ministry in such a powerful way that you wanted to go into ministry, which is very, very unique, especially given the demands of ministry.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys are married for just about 25 years. So how have you balanced marriage and ministry and continue to make your marriage a priority, even in the midst of having children?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, the key word, of course, is balance. And what I would say is probably something that won't necessarily come as a surprise, but yet it's often overlooked or we take it for granted. And that is to establish my very own intimate relationship with Jesus. Mm-hmm. Nothing more, nothing less. And for my spouse, my wife, Heidi, to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And when we both have that priority above all, and we have that balance, in other words, we make time for Jesus. We prioritize that. Everything else starts coming together. And that makes the difference.
But the reality is that it doesn't work that perfectly in real life. Mm-hmm. I'm also a pastor and the son of a pastor, and I know that the concept of having time with Jesus is a wonderful one, and sometimes you begin doing that, and then you get so busy that you sometimes forget. Mm-hmm. How did you balance that?
Well, I will say that before we met, or, I already had my own personal devotional life.
Yes.
And so I think that without that, when you meet someone, if they're not walking with the Lord and they don't have that relationship with God on their own, it's hard for them to develop it after that point. I think it's so important that we bring that to the relationship. But reality, life does get busy.
It does.
Sometimes your devotional time may go down to like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it may go down to just a prayer.
Right.
Yes.
But starting with Him first thing is so important. So I will say that no one is perfect and we all struggle, with that. So even in the ministry,
Yes.
even as pastor spouses, even as pastors, we have to do resets
Yeah.
and say, God, bring me back to
Indeed.
where
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. She says she's not a preacher, but that was a sermon. That's so powerful what both of you are saying, and I think it's so important. And the reset, I think, is critical as well, that we don't beat ourselves up because we don't do it. But if nothing else, get a prayer in, and we often start our mornings with prayer as well. And we've even tried to push ourselves to at least pray together. We have our personal devotionals, but we also try to pray together every day. And it
Feel connected.
Yeah, it feels connected for our relationship and also connecting us to God. So what you said, Christian, is absolutely true. And I hope that our audience, people who are listening, will understand that this is real. Like that power that we receive in the morning is just so real. But you guys also waited 6 years before having children. Tell us about that.
That was intentional. It was very intentional. In fact, my parents in particular would really wonder, when are we going to become grandparents?
Right.
And I come from a Latin Spanish background, so family is very important. And the reason we were intentional though is because, of course, we realized that, wow, once we welcome our first child, as you can only imagine, life will drastically change.
That's right.
But something that we practiced early on from the first year of marriage, when we celebrated our anniversary, we would intentionally plan a very memorable experience. And oftentimes we tagged it on to a mission trip.
Okay.
We would go on a mission trip around our anniversary time and then do an excursion, something extra special.
Okay.
And that became a tradition, a practice from year one. And we did that for the first 6 years. And so that was something that made it very special.
So what we do know, just based on the literature, and you're a social worker, that when you have a dyad, husband and wife, it's relatively easy to be tracking together and doing all these things. But when you get your triad, your first triad, things change.
Yeah.
How were you able to balance everything, family, marriage, parenting, in this new configuration that was brand new to the both of you? What did you do?
I will have to say that even though we waited so long, I think Christian probably wouldn't have waited as long as we waited, but I had a little bit of fear.
Okay.
I would like to be honest with that right now. I was afraid because my life was going to change and I knew it.
Right.
And so I thought to myself, I'm going to be so busy because when you become a mom, there's a huge responsibility in that, especially in the early years. The mother's role is so important.
Yeah.
And so I was nervous about that, but I was praying about it. And one day I thought to myself, your parents love to come and visit you. They love to see you. And I thought to myself, this is a privilege. It's a privilege. My mindset had to shift from it being a burden to it being a joy and a privilege.
Oh, that's
and when that
beautiful.
shifted, I was ready.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so the change that happened was big. But I will tell you that I thought to myself, my life as a mom I don't have to become a different person.
Yeah.
My life doesn't have to stop. So when our kids were very young, I was like, I'm going to church. I'm going to the store. I mean, I did not let being a mom stop me. Our daughter was 6 days
6 days.
old.
We had a 6-day-old baby.
When we took her to church for the first time.
That's
In the
6
church.
days old.
I'm not sure people were questioning that,
They were like,
but hold that thought. I want to come back to that, but we have to take a break right now. We'll be right back with Christian and Heidi right after this break. Today on Real Family Talk, we are talking with Pastor Christian and Heidi Martin about balancing life in a busy world.
So just before break, we were talking about all the stuff that you guys were doing, going on mission trips, making it special. How did you incorporate your kids into that? You say 6 years in and you started having children. How did you keep your balance to make your family priority?
You know, as a pastor, I often discover that as I talk to other pastors or other colleagues, that we just don't have time for vacation.
We don't.
I hear, you know, or we've accumulated all this time because we didn't take vacation for the last 3 years, you know, and things like that. And but honestly, and thankfully, that's not our case. That's kind of foreign to us. It's like, how could you not have vacation? And I think that anniversary, you know, priority of going out somewhere and taking time to do that is what, you know, is the pattern that we continued into our family life. And so we do prioritize vacation, family time, and it's not an if, it's really a when. And,
Every year, I take it.
Every year, every year.
Because we need that. I mean, if not, you're going to burn out.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. And we
Yeah.
also need it so that our children will have memories.
Yes, of course.
They'll look
Exactly.
back at their childhood and say, remember when we went on this trip and that trip? And
Exactly. I mean, we first took our children on their first mission trip when they were 5 and 2.
Yeah.
So very similar.
Very simple.
And I think what I love about what you're saying is that it was around your anniversary time. And that's so critical because a lot of times we think, you know, for anniversary, it's just the two of us, and that's okay. But what you've done is you've pulled your children into the anniversary time. And early in our marriage, we attended a workshop where a couple mentioned that. Like, include your children in your anniversary so that they're celebrating your marriage.
Because you're modeling.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right.
you're modeling. Someday in the future, they're going to be married, and you're showing them what it looks like in real time to have a family. So what did that look like? You said something during the break about taking them on that mission trip and
starting out young, getting your kids involved in ministry. I think one of the things that is so important for me is that our kids see us as the same people. Whether we're at church or at home or at work, that's a congruent picture.
Yeah.
My mom and dad are the same people wherever they are.
Consistent.
They need to see consistency. That gives them a foundation to grow on, and it also gives them a feeling of security.
And a reason not to be angry at ministry.
And exactly, they see, have fun doing God's work.
Yeah.
Don't make it a burden or a drudge or anything like that. Have fun. Invite people over to our home. Take vacations. Have fun as a family. Do whatever we can to make living for Jesus a blast.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's good about that is, well, actually, it's good, but also I'm sure there's someone that's saying, well, how can they afford to take their kids on vacation every year? I would say you can't afford not to.
Exactly.
But how did you guys manage that? Because oftentimes people will say, oh, you know, we don't make enough money as pastors, families, you know, so how did you manage that?
Well, we own a tent. We have just tagged, we've done a lot of tagging on to mission trips and then stay a week longer since we're already there. You know, you fundraise.
I mean, you say tent.
Yeah.
One anniversary, we decided, you know, let's go wild. Let's go to New York City, you know. And
Not with your tent. Not with your tent, though.
Well, Central Park.
Listen, we lived in Michigan. We lived in Michigan, and so going to New York City was going to be an incredible experience. And yes, believe it or not, we took a tent and we
That's
found a
brave.
campsite, a campgrounds
Yes.
in Long Island.
Of course.
We would spend the night in the tent and then take
train.
take a
Yeah,
subway
yeah.
Yeah.
and spend all day
Yeah.
in New York City
Yeah.
and enjoy it that way.
That was before we had kids, but we did do that. It was fun.
is absolutely
adventure.
bold and courageous.
Well, and it's
But that's
different.
great.
It's
Yeah.
different and it's innovative, right?
Yeah.
Because the hotels in New York City are very expensive.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's what I love about
yes.
that. Like, be creative,
Yeah,
just plan, be intentional.
100%. And we have to also add that we did a lot of study, research, reading of financial stewardship, and Dave Ramsey,
Yes,
which
of
we all
course.
know
Yeah.
about, was someone that we would hear often, and so from the early beginnings, we knew that financial stewardship or faithful stewardship will mean being able to have the means to do memorable things together.
Right. Speaking about that, you homeschooled your children. Tell us about that and how that helped to balance your family time and your finances and keep you focused on what was priority for your family.
It's been the biggest joy of our life to be able to homeschool our kids. I mean, I was afraid to do it because I was homeschooled through 3rd grade. Christian was homeschooled.
Just my last year in
12th
high
grade.
school because we went overseas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is actually easier than you think. And there's so much out there to help you do it. And our kids, the first probably 1 or 2 years are the most, because you have to build that foundation and get them into the routine, teach them some crucial things, but they have enjoyed it so much. And
Are they still homeschooled?
they're,
Or high
they're
school?
actually kind of, our son is doing kind of a hybrid. He's actually taking college courses now. He's a senior in high school, but by the time he gets to college, he's going to have like 29 credits already.
Okay.
So he's kind of a real, he's pushing forward with that. Our daughter's going to take her first college course pretty quick here. So we've been pulling in other resources, and we've done that throughout the years, but it's just been mostly at home, and it's worked amazing. We've had so much flexibility to travel and do so many different things that we wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. So it's been a really positive experience.
And for being a pastor's family, it has given us the opportunity, especially me as the pastor and the father, the husband, to be able to have quality interaction with my very own kids in our very own home during daytime hours. I think that right there is what makes homeschool experience for us so valuable. Quality time with family in times of the day when typically it just doesn't exist.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. We have to go to a break now. We'll be back with more from Heidi and Christian. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Real Family Talk. We've been talking with Pastor Christian and Heidi Martin from Wake Up with Hope, talking about how they followed God's call to ministry and balancing their family life and their marriage in a very busy world.
Okay, guys. So talk to us about family as a ministry and what that looks like for your family.
As a family, Sabbath, the 7th day, Saturday, becomes a very busy time of the week. And while other families, many families would consider Sabbath a day of rest, which of course it is.
Yeah.
For a pastor, it's
A little different.
A little different rest.
It's a little different kind of rest. And so early on, in fact, from the very beginning, we agreed that we would prioritize having a family day off, a family day, where we could rest in many different ways that most families would rest when they have the Sabbath rest. But we chose to take Mondays as our day off, and for me that was crucial in the early years of our children because they have memories now of growing up as a PK themselves, but having memories of family time. Going on trips, not long trips. I mean, the day off was not necessarily going out of the state or out of the country. It was going to the park and playing catch and playing frisbee, or going out to have ice cream and eating out, or things like that, going to their playground, going to places that they wanted to go to, and see us with them.
Right.
That was so important.
And what about?
Wait, I want
Go ahead.
to just circle back, because Heidi is a social worker, and so how do you balance that? How do you have the same day off on Monday? Tell us a little bit about how you've arranged your schedule as a social worker to fit into this family balance that you're trying to do.
Well, I could have worked full time, but I decided I was only going to work 1 or 2 days a week. The goal being 1 day a week. So that's what I've been doing all these years. I'm a contract social worker, and God has always provided a place for me to work, and I do home health. And so I'm able to make my own schedule. So I'm able to work around Christian's schedule. When the kids were young, I also did hospice social worker. And so we have been able to work ourselves around each other's schedules so that we could always provide time for us to be together as a family. And now that our kids are older, our son's going to college already in the fall, we have spent that time doing things that they want to do.
So what I'm hearing you say is that if you're going to balance your family time, your marriage, and your work, you have to be intentional about that. You have to know what you want that to look like
And plan for it.
and plan for it.
Once they're gone, they're never going to be with you again.
They're not coming back.
And then I can work full time.
Yes.
Right, maybe.
If I want to, you know what I mean? But I feel
Right.
like these years that God has given us are the years they're just the best years. And we want to make them the best years.
Sure.
Because someday they won't be with us
Right.
anymore.
And you've made some very important decisions, because I heard you say, I decided. You didn't fall into it. I decided. We decided as a family that this is how we were going to do it. And it's so important that we remember that if we decide to have kids, they didn't ask to come here. They didn't ask to be adopted or to be born. And so we have an obligation to pour into them so that they become the people that God intended for them to become. So we have a few minutes left. Can you guys just share with our audience some practical tips that you think would be helpful for families balancing ministry or work, family, personal time, all of that? Marriage, yes.
Now that we have teenagers, it's a whole new world, And but one thing we do realize is important is being able to have time to actually sit down together as a family. So our meals are very important. We can be thankful that we cultivated the practice and the experience of being able to sit around a table together for the meal, and being able to listen to our kids. We will often sit, in the living room on the couches and have conversations with our kids and listen to them.
There's so many times that we've told our kids over and over again through the years, there is no topic that is off limits. We can talk about anything. Bring anything here and it's safe. We have to be a safe place for our children. And if they don't feel they can talk to us about it, we make sure by God's grace, we've been looking for mentors, for people who can surround them, who they can go to and ask questions and make sure that we have that in place for them. Also, for our marriage and our family, having mentors for us personally, counselors, people who we can speak with when we get to a tough spot.
When we get out of balance,
we can help us reset.
Because that's the reality of marriage and
Yeah.
family life. There's going to be some out of balance time. And you were saying during the break something about making sure that every place you go, you have certain services in place to help you keep that balance in your life.
We always look for doctors, for dentists, but few of us actually look for counselors.
Right.
And so we've made that a priority.
That's awesome.
They are at the same level as our family doctor. We want to make sure that person is also in place so that if we need some extra help, we have somebody to go to.
Absolutely.
Many pastoral families don't have that.
Yeah.
They feel alone.
And they implode.
Yes. We
And
don't
then-
want that to happen.
And then it's too late.
Yeah.
Right? So you're being proactive. You're being intentional.
Pastor Christian, Heidi, it's been a joy to have you here at Real Family Talk.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for making the time to come and share with our audience about how to balance family, marriage, ministry, work, which is the reality of our lives if we live in the 21st century. When life pulls you in different directions all at once and life seems overwhelming, Draw near to God and let his strength steady you in your family. In the book of Isaiah, chapter 41 and verse 10, the Bible reminds us, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you." In every season of life, God promises to be your source of balance and peace.
Thank you for watching Real Family Talk. Join us again when we'll share more about strengthening families and inspiring hope. See you next time.